I'm here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
The whole fleet of them, what's on the ASA? Oh my God.
Unidentified.
The acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Anomalous.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things.
Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. I'm Digby Furno, and joining me, as always, is my very good friend, Tom Thompson, aka Cortex Zero, who looks like he might have gone and robbed Steve Bassett's wardrobe this week.
That's it. You know what's really funny about this outfit, too? It's like one of my favorite things to wear in the podcast, the long black sleeve. And the times that I have been in interviews with Steve Bassett, I have specifically made sure to not wear this outfit so we don't look like clothes.
Well, you start looking like some mime group from Paris. It's awesome.
It'd be really tough to do a podcast as a mime, like the mime show. They should do one time though. One time they should do that though, where it's just silent art at its finest.
Absolutely. Tom, how are you?
Great.
It's good to be
I'm
back.
good.
I missed you.
Yeah, man. I missed you too. Like, I'm really glad that you're feeling better. Obviously, you were really, really sick, man. Why don't you tell everybody what happened?
Well, I had one night last week I had a few drinks. It wasn't that much, and I woke up the next day and it felt like I had an awful hangover. But it just the next day, then it just got worse and worse and worse. And before I knew it, I had a really high fever. I was in bed for 4 or 5 days, like hallucinating at nighttime and just like sweating buckets and then freezing. And I thought maybe it was Legionnaires that we got from the pool, although I still think it probably was that or a form of that. And yeah, so I'm back. I am alive. My throat is a bit croaky. And I can't laugh too hard, otherwise I'll be coughing for the next 20 minutes. So if you see me just coughing a lung up while muted, I'm okay, don't worry. But
you're going to be doing that a lot.
90% of me is back.
It's going to happen, though, because, you and I on this show together have a tendency to crack each other up quite a bit. I will do my best to curb it, I guess, as much as possible, because every time you wince, I will feel it deep down in my soul, and I don't necessarily want that.
Let's just keep things really serious, really tight. No jokes for the entire show, okay? It's not going to work. And I don't know if you covered it much on this last week's show, but we're monetized on YouTube now, which is amazing. It's we were waiting to get there, and the last couple of weeks it just really gave us that push. So many new subscribers, so many new views, and everything. So it's really fantastic. Although I have to say this, YouTube have just changed their rules, so there is a certain amount of times we can say the word fuck before we don't get monetized. So I've just said it once. There's one. We can only say it another 4 times. So,
hey, look at that! My mom is in the chat right now.
Just as soon as I swear, your mum turns up.
Yeah, I meant to tell her about it before the show. Sorry,
Mom.
There's this new F-word thing going on here, but happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, especially my mom. I'm gonna get really, really cringy. She's in the next room too. No, seriously, honestly, all jokes aside, I've been through a lot of shit in my life, and look, I'm guilty of causing some of that, some of my own personal issues. My mom has always been in my corner. She has never abandoned me. She has always had my back, literally through all of my mistakes, trials and tribulations. Mom, I love you to death, and I don't even know how I could possibly repay her for all of the support that she's given me. Like I'm really lucky. Seriously, I'm
Well
really
done,
lucky
Mum.
that she's been my mom for all the years that I've been here. You know, I could have ended up with someone that didn't care about me, and you know, sometimes that happens to people. My mom is literally the prime example of what a mom is supposed to be. So, love you, Mom, and thank you for popping into the chat. And sorry about our cursing.
If my mom is watching, I'm not going to say Happy Mother's Day to her because, quite frankly, I did that last month when it was Mother's Day in England. You've got different times, things, and stuff going on, so it's not Mother's Day. It's not Mother's Day in England. So sorry, Mum, you're out of luck. Bad luck. You already got one for me, and I actually flew over back to England to see my mum on Mother's Day. So yeah,
that's very nice that you would do
that's
that.
not actually true. I went back there and then I realised it was Mother's Day when I was back there. But still, we had a lovely day.
Oh, there's
Which one of you is Digby?
That's what.
Right.
we got bombed. Oh, there's Sandy. She's finally here.
I'd say where's Sandy, but then I realised she's probably a mother and probably a very good one. So her dear children and whatever were probably celebrating with her. So welcome, Sandy. Anyway, let's get back to the real business of
It's a family event
and stuff, aliens and stuff.
Yeah, we had some stuff happen this week that was pretty interesting.
We've had some lovely stuff happen this week that we can't even talk about, which is really exciting.
But that's what I want to get to, actually.
Warning, trust me, bro moment coming in.
It's not here. Trust me, bro, that it's not a trust me, bro. Because it really isn't like that. I will say I had made a post on X a few days ago. That was really short and sweet, but it actually got a lot of like interesting comments and some interesting conversations that kind of spawned off of it. And I said, if you only knew. That was all it was, right? And someone's like, well, say something. And I'm like, okay, cool. So some of you are reading this, so I will. And I had said that there's a lot going on right now behind the scenes. The situation is quite dynamic. And I now have a clearer understanding of the factors contributing to some of the slow progress that's been going on that we've all been seeing, including the identification of detrimental influences and the extent of the ongoing propaganda efforts. In my opinion, which I must emphasize is solely my opinion and just that, it's my own considered view, I believe that if appropriate actions are taken in the coming months, we could witness some rapid and significant developments. This would represent a substantial leap forward in our effort that we all know as disclosure. Digby is a part of that, and there are many good friends that we have in the community that are also part of certain things that are happening right now.
Just to give people a brief understanding, there's a lot we can't talk about, which I know that everybody in this situation is just sick to death of hearing. And the old trust me, bro, and stuff. But, I managed to make one in particular very, very good new connection this week, which we are very lucky to have. And I've since introduced Tom. And it's suffice to say that we have a greater understanding. We don't know any top secret stuff. We don't know anything that you don't know. But what we do have is perhaps another level or another understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, the players, the movers, the shakers, that sort of stuff. And it brings you to a new level of understanding and appreciation for the work that goes on behind the scenes by key members that actually a lot of the time just get a load of stick from people, whistleblowers, what they're going through. We've been speaking to somebody this week in the background as well about whistleblowers and how difficult it is for them to come forward and what we can do as a community to make that easier for them and how we can rally behind them. I've come off feeling ill for a week to actually be welcomed back into the community with this reignited vigor in me, say that let's get this done, let's get this past the post, as it were. And it's made me realize something. And Tom, your keyboard's incredibly loud.
I know. I was waiting for it.
It's made me realize that the difference between me and Tom, and I'm not here to bash any other podcasts, and there's some podcasts and hosts of podcasts we've had on the show that I absolutely love. But what I really love about me and Tom and what we're doing is that we don't just want to have people on the show so we can talk to weird and wonderful people and famous people or whoever. We actually have an inbuilt desire in both of us to be part of a team to help move this subject forwards. And Tom and I will do anything that we can to help the people that need it the most, or to highlight certain subjects, or whatever we can do, even if it's getting down and dirty and scrubbing through a load of files and whatever. It doesn't matter. Tom and I are here for disclosure, and we're not just going to sit back and wait for it to happen.
No.
We're gonna push forwards. We're gonna do what we can do. We're gonna support the people that we need to support, and we're gonna get the stories out there that need to be heard, whether that be from whistleblowers past, present, future, or experiencers, or anything like that. We're here for everybody. Our DMs are open. Our
Absolutely.
conversation is there for anybody who needs it. And I just wanted to say that. But anyway, enough of the trust me bro stuff. Let's
It really
go
wasn't
on.
that, though.
No, I know. I'm saying that as jest because this will be clipped and people will go, "Oh, trust me, bro." Moment,
Man,
things like that don't help.
I
Somebody
know.
also, I saw a comment earlier about David Grush and goes, "Oh, the grifter." I said, "What, the grifter that lost his career, his pension, and his reputation to go out and earn that sweet UFO conference money for those UFO
yeah.
conferences that he hasn't been on, those
Loaded.
TV shows that he hasn't been on." I mean, you don't get paid. I don't think he got paid for going on Jesse Michaels. He wouldn't have got paid for going on Joe Rogan. You don't get paid to go on TV shows and podcasts. He's not trying to release a book. He's not making himself a celebrity out of this. He's staying away. He's not making any money, and he's lost everything. So, next time you want to call somebody like David Grush a grifter, do me a favor and just 0121.
Digby.
Do one.
Real quick, too. And hello, everybody in the chat. I see our dear friend is here. Paul, Sandy, Heather. Obviously, my mom's here, which is cool. My aunt might even be watching for all I know. So hello to my aunt. I will say that I look forward to the day where I can talk about anything and everything that's either happened behind the scenes or private conversations. And that's why I made that post that I did. It's like, if you only knew. It's like, when someone comes and finds our show, what they see front facing, if they don't know us that well, is like, okay, it's just two gentlemen here talking about these subjects, right? That is not all that we do. There is a lot more going on behind the scenes. Besides content creation, like, I would very much go as far as saying that we're not only researchers, but we are disclosure advocates. Like, we are. We're part of that team that's trying to actually get something done. We don't just go live and do the podcast. We contact people. We research. We connect other people that we think will work good together if they know the other exists. Like, there's a lot that we do. And
which is something wonderful that we've done this week, actually, and I think it's really something that
it's not easy, right? And I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. It's not always easy because you may be in a position where you want to say a couple different things here and there because some of it is very exciting. Absolutely, it's like I want to scream to the top of my lungs and tell everybody everything. Trust me, I wish I could do that. But from a journalistic perspective, if someone requests anonymity or privacy, especially when it pertains to this, you give it. Exactly. And we're just doing our best. That's
Otherwise,
we
wouldn't be getting very far, would we?
I don't think we would.
So just a little bit of housekeeping before we go into this week's news. As I said, we are monetized on YouTube now, which is amazing, but that also does mean that super chats are open, which is very exciting.
It is.
This show now might be able to start paying for itself rather than it coming out of my back pocket, or now as you, well, Tom, yours as well. So if any of you are in a position to give us a sticker or jump on the super chats, please do. We would really appreciate it. It helps us to keep the show going.
Support our grift, right? Right, Digby? Because we're just
grifters.
Major grifters. Huge.
Grifters. The 30 hours a week we put into the show every week and don't get paid for it, just do it for the love. We are massive.
I slept 4 hours last night. Huge grifter over here, guys. I stayed up super late thinking about grifting. That's why I was up so late.
I hate you. No.
Nah, yeah, you know.
I've never had so much love for another human being that I've never met in person. So there we go. Anyway, enough.
That's very kind.
BS. Right. Also, we are trying something a little bit different because we have loads of people who watch us on X, and you guys are all amazing. But quite frankly, you all need to get your asses over to YouTube. So please, you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube. If you see the link, there is a link there to go and watch us. On YouTube, you can join in the chat. There's loads of people in the chat. Heather, who else have we got? Cersei, loads of people. Paul's there. Hi, Paul. All of you will notice that
Crypto
Paul is
Cajun
not here
as well
with us.
Great name.
Paul's normally sort of there, but he's not anymore. Paul is working on his own stuff. He's got lots of work going on and stuff like that. So Paul's going to pop in on the show every now and again, but not as much as he used to before. So yeah. If you're watching on X, head over to YouTube. Also, bad news, we are only going to stream the first half an hour of this on X, and then it will be on YouTube solely for the rest of the show. We're trying it out this week, see if it will encourage some people to head on over to the tube. So if you would kindly do that. We have Darcy Weir coming to join us in about 15 minutes. So if you want to watch the full live interview with Darcy and get involved in the chat and pose him some questions, please head over to YouTube. Anyway, without further ado, let's go to this week's news.
Beyond the mundane.
And Tom, the first story is over to you, my friend. No one can hear you, Tom.
I bet they can now.
They can now.
I muted myself because, you and I are in a chat that people are messaging us in the moment. I'm trying to multitask the best of I can.
Oh, I'm not in my chat. I can't see that.
You might want to go look at. You know what chat I'm talking about. You might.
I can't because it's on my phone.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You just screenshot it and forward it to me to WhatsApp.
I will absolutely do that. So
okay.
Now I will say, it's really interesting. An image came out from a meeting that a lot of us had heard about, but weren't so sure if it really happened. There was a lot of different stories going around the community for quite a number of months, maybe even a year, actually. It's been out there for a while, this story, that there had been this meeting that Brandon Fugel was essentially doing a presentation, and that Sean Kirkpatrick was present. Now, from what I understand, Sean claims to have not remembered it. And again, I'm going to play devil's advocate. That's what we do on this show. We try to be as fair as we can to everybody involved in any of this. That guy takes a lot of meetings. He really does. He probably does thousands of them a year. Okay.
And not managed to achieve anything, which in itself is an amazing talent.
That is quite extraordinary. So now, I respect Sean's resume. It's obviously very bright. No one can take that away from the guy. But his role in Arrow didn't get the job done. However, I will say, just based on some of the things that I've learned behind the scenes too, with some of the people that I've talked to, it would appear though that it may not have been so much him trying to derail things, but he really didn't have all of the tools that he would have needed to even do his job to begin with. Now, if you pair that with someone that wants to derail things, which very possible Sean came in with that mindset, because maybe, he could be a spook, who knows, right? That can happen. Then it's a double whammy, and you have yourself a real situation where nothing is going to get done, and the guy is trying to not get anything done. So again, there's a lot of factors involved here. Now we know that this meeting did happen. This photograph does exist. It's possibly going to go down as maybe the most memed image in the history of ufology. I mean, honestly, here, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for everybody real quick. I memed it. I put our damn logo on it. I gave Sean laser eyes. I did a couple different things. But
you're such a child.
Yeah, I know, seriously. I've been memeing a lot lately on X for some reason, and I'm very good at it, I guess. But no, honestly, here, I'm just bringing it up. There's not much. What's that?
You'll have uplifting tweets on you, stealing his memes, stealing his meme crown.
No, my God, no, I would never do such a thing.
He's got some.
He doesn't. He does.
That man.
He has. He cracks me
It's
up.
a
though,
meme
honestly.
factory.
He really is, like, honestly, like a meme lord in every sense of the word.
Anyway, right.
So this is the image. Now, you can only get so much context and so much information from a photograph, right? Now, apparently, there exists a video clip from this meeting. That's what we really need right now. I can't do much else past this.
No.
I mean, it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of assumptions being made, like, oh, it's obvious Sean doesn't want to be there. And it's, well, we don't know, right? Like, he could literally have just been glancing up, and the person waited for him to do it, and then took the image. I almost think it could be like, why is he... I feel like that's the expression of, why is that person taking an image of me that I didn't want to be in? You know, it could be that, right? Like it caught his attention. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like,
yeah.
So again, it remains to be seen. But if this video clip exists, we need that, right? I was in a space with Astral the other night, and he was having a little bit of a back and forth with Brandon Fugel about that. So I don't know. You know, maybe that'll come out. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are here. But love you, Mom. I have to go be a mom. She's great. We have a video clip, and it's Stephen Greenstreet.
I know it pains me that we
Fugel.
have to credit Stephen Greenstreet on our show, but it looks like we're going to have to.
Well, he is in the video clip, so we're going to play it.
I'm
Now,
holding
this is
my
something
breath.
I hearken back to a lot.
As we commenced the presentation,
so I might
I
have
was
to cut you off
interrupted
No, it's okay.
by a gentleman at the head of the table, and he said, wait, before we proceed any further, I want to establish an understanding. All the gentlemen here, Mr. Fugel, that you're presenting to, are all very well aware of the reality of UFO phenomena. So please dispense with any part of your presentation that would seek to convince us of the reality, because we already know.
Who said that?
One of the individuals leading the discussion.
A source familiar with this briefing told me that this was Sean Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick is the director of the Pentagon's current UFO office called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW.
Thanks, Stephen. You sound like a 12-year-old boy. Anyway.
I mean, well, whatever.
I'm very bitchy when it comes to Stephen Greenstreet.
I
just don't like.
I totally get that. I totally get that. So look, I remember this quote. It's been in the back of my mind for quite a while now. Okay. It doesn't feel like Brandon is lying, I'll be honest. It sounded like he had that pretty down pat as far as what was said. And then I look at what he said, and he said head of the table. Head of the table. It's like, well, if you literally look at the image, who is sitting near the head of the table? And yeah, it's Kirkpatrick. So I've had some suspicions here, right? So if he did say that, okay, and then you compare that with what he has said publicly, front-facing, there's quite a contradiction there, man. And that's where we have our problem, right? Like, that's it flies in the face of pretty much everything Sean has been doing in his little PR campaign that he's gone on.
Yeah, it's
very strange.
And to be fair, the whole Kirkpatrick thing has always stunk to high heaven. I mean, the inadequacy of the historical report from Arrow. We've made a joke about it in the past, saying he's just gone on ChatGPT and said, "Write me a historical report on UFOs." Which is basically what it seems like. There was so many inaccurate statements, so many errors. It was just a complete and utter joke. My opinion, my thought process has always been that he was set out to fail. It was his task, it was his mission, and I think a lot of people are seeing through that. Anyway, let's move on to our next piece of news for this week, which I don't think anybody can really escape from this week, because especially if you're living in the northern hemisphere and sort of certainly in England and the northern parts of America, you've seen the northern lights everywhere, which is quite shocking. And I didn't even know that we were expecting this. I heard all the news about the CMEs and everything, and it was all very, very interesting and quite scary at times as well. I didn't realize that everybody was going to see these amazing northern lights in the sky. Also, I mean, Tom, have you got some images there that you can show of them?
Yeah,
because now I've seen images of the northern lights. We all have,
Right.
over northern parts of Europe and Netherlands and all that sort of places that regularly see the northern lights. These are like no northern lights I've ever seen. The
This is a
colors,
little diagram.
the colors that we're seeing, especially the reds and the purples, it's not really something that I've seen in Northern Lights before. So it was very interesting to see. But I mean, they're just amazing, beautiful photos. And this was taken by Kimball of UFO Intros, and it's just absolutely stunning. But I think we also need to realize, just actually almost sort of what's behind it. This is a clip from Space Weather News. I've got the audio off on it, but it just gives you some nice illustrations of actually what was going on. This was at a point where they'd reported 4 coronal mass ejections, and that was enough of news, But I think we ended on 7, and they're some of the highest level ejections that we've had in the last sort of 100 years. And I think we have to realize, that we need to up our game with this, and governments around the world need to up their game on protecting us from things like this in the future, because this had the end of the week, this had a 15% chance of basically taking mankind back 150 years.
That's frightening.
And, that would just completely destroy our way of life. We are not protected against this.
No.
The last one was it was called the Carrington event, okay, and this was in 1859, and the only thing we had technological wise was telegraph poles, and they all got fried.
Yeah, those wires went to hell quick.
They all had to be replaced. Now, if we have a Carrington level event happen in the world today, we get, I think it's between half an hour and a 20-minute warning that it's going to hit Earth, because when these ejections happen from the sun, we can't accurately determine when they're actually going to hit Earth, but we do know within 20 minutes. Now, that's a 20-minute warning for basically every system on the entire planet to be turned off completely. Every computer with a battery, every cell phone, right? But
Not
every
enough
power
time.
station, every nuclear reactor, all these things would have to be completely and utterly powered down without a single volt going through them for there to be any hope that they would be useful afterwards, which is just completely impossible.
It's insane to think about. Look at that. That's what gets me right there.
This was a kill shot potential of 8
kill
to 10%.
shot potential. Yeah, I mean, my God.
15. It went up to 15, and I think we got to, I think we may, I could be wrong, but I think we got to a KP9.
I heard that as well.
On one of the
I think that's right. Well, I mean, think about it. How long it takes.
We're still waiting for one to hit us. We're still waiting for one to hit.
There's one. It's still inbound. It's like, how are you going to shut off? I mean, okay, I can shut off my TV, my computer, and all those things like in the blink of an eye.
But it went up to 18%. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. A nuclear power station or a hospital, or people that are on life support and such, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind is like there are systems in place that in order to power them down, it is going to take probably like hours to do that. There's no, I mean, there would be no escape from this.
I don't think you can literally switch off a nuclear reactor without it bloody exploding.
No, it doesn't work like that.
The thing is, there are things that can be done. There is shielding that can be done, but the power systems that are in place around the world just are completely antiquated and completely out of date. And if our governments around the world don't do something about it to protect us, then we could be in for a lot of trouble. Never mind thinking about UFOs and whether they're real and whether what if they've got nefarious means or whatever. We need to start looking at things that are a bit closer to home and making sure that we've got our I's dotted and our T's crossed. Because at the moment, it feels like we don't. 18%. Let's put that into perspective. If I said to you, and Tom, this is going to be personal for you because you hate flying, but if I said to you, there's an 8% chance that you would die on a plane, you wouldn't get on a bloody plane, would you? So
No.
why are we messing around with such high percentages when it comes to the fact that technology could be completely wiped off the face of the earth, and we would, hundreds of thousands, millions of people would die around the world if this happened. Riots in the streets, absolutely everything. No communication, no technology, no transport, no nothing. Done. You don't come. How do you come back from that?
So, if a Carrington type event were to happen now, right? So think about it like this, right? On average, there's probably around 40 to 50,000 people flying in the air at any given time, right? Then you have people who depend on electrical equipment to keep them alive. Like I said earlier, people that might be on life support, anyone that's got a pacemaker or an iron lung. Then you got your unshielded computers that run the nuclear reactors, the motors that cool the reactor, modern cars that rely on automatic brake systems. I mean, the list goes on. This is something that all of our species needs to start thinking about. Every government. It's happened before, so we know it's possible. I don't know how you can't create like an early warning system for this. Right. It's not like a tornado.
That reminds me of the beginning of Armageddon. It happened before. It will.
It will happen again. Yeah, I totally remember that. But hey, Digby.
Yes.
I believe we have a guest coming on the show today.
We do, and also I'm going to be a real dick about this because actually, if you guys want to watch Darcy's full interview and you are watching on X, it is now time to head over to our YouTube channel. So if you're watching on X, you'll see on the description there is a link there to this very particular video on YouTube. So if you want to go over there and head over there and click that link and click like and subscribe and all that jazz, then you can watch the full interview with Darcy there. If not, just go to YouTube and search at UA-pod. But from us on X, it's bye-bye and hello to Darcy. Tom, over to you.
Well, I've been really looking forward to this all week, and I do believe if we did everything properly, that we should have a button to press. So I'll press it right now.
This week's guest.
Yes, we did have the button to press. So, documentary filmmaker extraordinaire, friend of the show, how we met, I'm going to talk about today too, because it was quite a matter of fate and maybe even synchronicity, strangely. But welcoming to the show today, our friend from the Great White North, known as Canada. This is Mr. Darcy Weir. Darcy, my friend, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How's it going, Digby, Tom?
Darcy, it's fantastic. All right, we can hear you, and it's great to finally meet you, my friend.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I've heard good things. You're shaking the world up.
They're all lies.
You're shaking the world up, man. Just like me.
We're doing some things. Yeah,
you guys were talking Kill Shot before. It gave me a visceral memory of watching the Ed Dames documentary.
Yeah,
Tom was talking about this before the show.
Kill Shot.
Yeah, Ed Dames has quite an interesting reputation in the remote viewing world. So I think we'll definitely broach that. Darcy, you and I kind of met under very odd circumstances. I was at work one day watching Amazon Prime in my break room, and I stumbled upon one of your documentaries, and it was specifically, we have the trailer for it here too, so at some point during the show, I think we're going to play it so people can kind of get a taste of your work. It was Secret Space UFOs, Apollo 1 through 11. And I absolutely loved it. It like blew my mind. There were things in there that I hadn't heard about before or seen, which is tough for me with how much media I ingest related to these subjects. And then later on that night, there was a space going on X. It was Astral, and I was co-hosting, I believe. And you came up as a speaker, and I saw that your default picture was a poster for one of these documentaries, and I'm like, is this guy just like a big fan? What's this about? So I went to your profile, and I'm like, yo, this is the guy that directed what I just watched a few hours ago. Hold on a second here. And then we got to talking, and then, I was originally on a different podcast. We had you on as a guest. We got to meet, and you and I have quickly become friends since then.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like a weird synchronicity sort of fate situation. But yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, no doubt. Twitter is connecting the whole world of ufology and paranormal. So it's good. I like it. I like interacting with it. Some days it burns you, some days it doesn't. So,
Yeah, no, I know. Don't we all?
Yeah,
My God.
we all know that. I've had my share of burns recently, as Tom knows about. But yes, not as bad as some. But block quickly and block often is my new motive.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. Or you could always even hit mute. Whatever works at this point.
That's Gary's motto, right?
That's right.
No, now I lowered the camera too much. Here, wait. There we go.
You should see what it looks like when we're setting up for the show. It's always a challenge.
Did Gary take that move on a friend of ours recently as well, Tom? But we don't.
Yeah. He's been going on a blocking spree.
Block quickly.
Very recently, actually. So hopefully he's coming on the show. Avi Loeb put me in contact with him, so hopefully. Blue Jay, totally agree with Twitter connecting folks. Has its share of dirtbags too. Hello, Blue Jay.
No doubt.
Hey, what's up, Blue Jay? Yeah, it's definitely like that. Darcy, you have. I'm not going to get too specific, but you have also dealt with some things connected to this world that goes far beyond just people spewing hate in the comments, right? Like you're like me. We've experienced some things in real life connected to this that are very, very suspect, we'll say.
Yeah. Right now I'm on my laptop, but my laptop is on the floor, so I'm using my DSLR, and I'm in like a temporary office. My computer, my desktop got hacked a week after basically my newest film with Tim Gallaudet and all these people talking about the Navy and USOs came out. So this is what my current laptop's view is. If you want to take a look at that, but yeah, jeez. I'm in the process of moving. My computer got hacked, and that was the first time ever that I had walked into my office. I turned on my screen, and I saw the mouse moving around independently on the screen. And they were in my email, they were on my Google Drive. It was freaky. So I just pulled the Ethernet out of the back of my desktop, which you just saw, and started going through the motions of securing things a bit better. But I never thought this shit would happen to me. And it's this community. I think people just target you when they think you're part of some Twitter team or some bullshit like that, or it's something else. I don't know. I just moved into this new place I'm living in, and the first week I was setting up things here. I got this doorbell ring, and I walked up to the front door. My dog's barking, and this dude is standing there, some big dude, and I'm like, hello? And I've just got the crack of the door open, and the dog's barking and trying to get at him and stuff, and I'm like, what's up? Can I help you? And he's like, I was told to go into the back of your house around the gate and pick up a pot or something. And I'm like, you were told to go into the back of my house? And he's like, yeah, I've been talking to somebody on Facebook and they are trying to sell me something and they told me to go to this address and go to the back of the house because that's where I can pick up the item. And I'm like, dude, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you've been talking to, but I really am uncomfortable with this interaction because whoever you're talking to is misleading you. And I'm the person who lives here and I'm not selling a pot or whatever the hell you're trying to pick up. So it's just like stupid shit like that that's been happening to me, and I don't know why.
I'm so glad I live in Morocco. Nobody's going to find me here. I don't even know where I am.
You haven't been bothered like he and I have yet because you're literally where you are.
Great. I've literally like got Moroccan burner phones, basically like Indiana Jones, but with broadband.
Sweet.
Any crystal skulls going on over there? Yeah. So, would you say that the individual that popped up at your door was probably like an innocent party, and that he, because all right, so that makes sense. That's the perspective I'm seeing this from.
Somebody was saying to me, "I know where you live."
Right. Okay, so
somebody was sending me a message, and I'm like,
Darcy, do you think these people, though, in this community, do you think they're just doing it because they want the attention or because they like doxing people? Or do you think that there's something more behind it? Because my personal feeling is that I wonder if certain people are placed within our community for a very good reason. And they're there to sort of create discord and make all this stuff happen. Because actually, I feel that with so many like-minded people within the community, surely it should be a lot easier for everybody to get along and actually achieve stuff if it wasn't for these sort of bad faith actors.
Yeah, but you're talking about you're kind of like anthropomorphizing all of the Twitter or the UFO community in general. From your point of view, right? Which you're like more altruistic. You want to dig into the truths that are coming out of this community. There's people that come on here and are just like, "How do I start a fight?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, how do I bother somebody enough that they delete their account and leave? And that's just the truth of it. It happens in, all social settings. There's always that total fucking dickhead that wants to create confusion, create enemies, wars, and watch it all burn down. There's anarchists. Like, there are anarchists that take pleasure in watching social systems burn. And I've spoken to some anarchists in the making of some of my documentaries, and they're completely disingenuous as to who they are. They say that they're in the UFO community or they're a content creator because they're interested in the greatest truth, but really they just want to control, and they want to, they get like almost this dopamine hit when they see people freaking out or getting mad at each other. And that is just a type of people out there, I think we all to some degree have that heart of darkness that we want that little dopamine hit from some kind of spat or something. It's just part of most of us. I mean, that's what the book, what's the one where like kids get trapped on this island and they end up
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. It's like as soon as society has left this group of children, they revert back to like their animal instincts to, climb this small social group in power and, put others down, and it becomes like brutal and animalistic, right? And I think like X is the Lord of the Flies island, where they don't
That makes
have
so much sense.
They don't have like the Facebook rules where like, oh, you just said something that's apolitical, blocked, or like, and which is annoying. I actually like X because it's so open and people can actually express greater freedom of speech, but unfortunately, it does create that Lord of the Flies island society where, you got Alex Jones going off over here about crazy shit. I hope there's not another Sandy Hook, thing he invents. And then you got like people creating like these music video memes about each other that they're actually kind of funny and catchy.
Some of them are pretty great.
Some of them are pretty cool, and you're like, holy shit, like AI is going to destroy people.
That's the talent that's out there too, but some of them are not taking that talent and using that energy to create anything constructive or good, and they're wasting their time getting involved in these like back and forth spats with one another when they could be doing something like what you do or like what Digby and I do. You create things. Like that's the thing that kills me the most, is that there's some people out there like that.
I think people just don't know how to funnel that energy though into creating something. Not everybody has that innately in their head to go, oh, I have this need to create something. And if you're not putting your energy into creating something, well, then that could be anything. Then where's that energy going? And if you don't have that outlet, I suppose it just comes out in other ways, and it's sad.
It's funny too, because like you look at these people that are so heavily aligned with each other online on Twitter. They've probably met via like video chats and stuff like that. Some of them have never met physically in person. And if they spent a week together, they probably would hate each other because they would really they'd see who they really are, Right. And, but then, I hope they do. I hope everybody meets each other eventually. I hope I meet you guys. Come from Jordan to North America, Digby, and hang out.
Well, absolutely. We're looking at doing that. We've got a base now in Morocco, so our idea now is to sort of house swap around the world. So we actually got offered somewhere this week in Miami for 3 months, which would have been pretty awesome to go live in Miami.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's just a cheaper way of doing it. Rent here is so cheap. We've got a 4-bedroom house with a pool here, which costs the equivalent of about $600-700. And for that, we can sort of house swap and go wherever we want in the world and not have to worry about paying rent when we go and stuff like that. So yeah, we will be heading over to North America very soon. I definitely have to go to New Jersey and meet my
man. Well, it's one of the most expensive places here. Like New Jersey is I think in the top 5 most expensive states to live, and it's outrageous.
We got offered a house in New York as well.
Tom, you should come to Pine Bush. I don't know if you know about that festival.
No, well, yeah, what's that about?
So Pine Bush is a UFO festival. It's actually a town in New York State. And they have a UFO museum, and the UFO museum puts on a conference. And so like Mike Barra, myself, Andy Marcial, Tom Reed, who's involved in the Berkshire abduction. We're all going to be there and like just kind of we're going to do like a presentation. I'm going to show my film too and do some Q&A.
When is this going to be?
It is it's June 1st. It's Saturday, June 1st. So if you want to come, I can talk to the organizer and get you a free ticket. And you can just
dude, that would be fantastic, because that is within range.
Yeah,
I might be able to do that.
Come check it out, man.
I've been up there too. I actually went camping years ago. It was like 2006, I think. I went camping up in upstate New York, and it was like one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. Like it was, oh my God! Like I still have some old photos from it, and like I went like whitewater rafting. I climbed up the side of a mountain and was like finding like little geckos and things. It was, it was like being in a painting. Like seriously, it was stunning. Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to look into that. That sounds like really awesome.
Right, let's get back to the old subject of ufology, Darcy.
Sure.
As always.
You're lucky enough to interview loads of people. I know you've interviewed Tim Galladay, James Fox, loads of other people as well. What do you think the mood is like, or how are you finding the mood at the moment for the disclosure process? I think everybody was expecting an awful lot more to come out of the beginning of this year. Like, I don't know, like some magic wand was going to be knocking on Congress's door in January, and all this stuff was going to start flying out, which obviously, clearly, it hasn't. But where do you think we're at the moment?
I think this is just my own feeling. I feel like we're in the falling action after the climax. It's not a popular opinion. A lot of people think that there's going to be like congressional hearings next week or whatever. People are hopeful, but I don't think it's going to happen in the election year. I think that they're trying to, the Democrats, like from what I've heard, everybody wants to keep Biden away from the UFO issue in the Democratic Party because unfortunately it still doesn't seem like something that's legitimate, right, to worry about. We're worried about jobs. The Democrats are worried about the environment. That's considered a conspiracy to some people. And then we're worried about, World War III and all these escalations happening over in the Middle East, Ukraine, China, trade wars. Like, there's just a lot that seems to be more taking the forefront in terms of political issues. So I don't think, it would be great if Lou Elizondo and that group released some more videos and, put something out a little bit more substantial. But I know that Ross Coulthart is working on some really interesting stories that are actually partly associated with something I'm working on right now, and my friend Andy Marciel. So that should be something to look out for, possibly regarding the Department of Homeland Security in the next couple months. But I think the sad thing, obviously, is we've seen Arrow do their damage to popular mass opinion with Kirkpatrick's reports, and he's going to have the chance to release another. So it's doing more damage than anything. It's like everybody associated it with this Edward Condon report, which was a scientific approach to studying UFOs back in the Project Blue Book days. We're just in like Blue Book 3.0 now, and we have NASA being the Condon report because they're supposedly the tip of the spear scientifically for North America or around the world. And then you have Kirkpatrick actually running Project Blue Book 3.0,
Yep.
So it's the mood is pretty bad, I'd say. Like it's not a good feeling to be, out there putting out stuff regarding UFOs and the history of it. I'm concerned that, look, Kirkpatrick made an accusation recently that folks that study ufology or take UFOs seriously might be deemed a threat or like kind of like a terrorist or something like that. And if you go on Twitter and look up Beatrice Villarreal, who's
we know Beatrice.
She's great. I've spoken to her. She posted about that. Like she was concerned with how he was framing somebody that was open to the idea scientifically that we're not alone in the universe and possibly being engaged with the non-human intelligence, right? I think that shouldn't be something you should be afraid of or stigmatize. We've been dealing with that since 1947, right? The poor folks that came before us didn't have this platform to talk about this so freely and openly. They were called like crackpots, kooks, and said that they were looking at swamp gas, the reflection of the moon over swamp gas or something.
That's really concerning, and I'm not going to go down the whole talking of C-19 route, but this is what a lot of people felt during the pandemic when they had questions and they were fearful and wanted answers to those questions, and then they were vilified by governments and politicians and celebrities all around the world and basically made to feel like criminals and treated such on social media. And it sounds that now that sort of format is going to be used potentially against people within our community to sort of hush us up.
Yeah, well, I mean, and now that we're out of COVID as a major pandemic, a lot of experts are looking back at that and saying all of these concerns regarding this coming from a lab in Wuhan and not from a wet market, are more verifiably true.
Justified.
Yeah. Right. So, and those people were being labeled conspiracy theorists, right?
I was one of them in my own house, for God's sake. I don't mean to. Yeah. I love my family. Don't get me wrong.
Well, we are conspiracy theorists, though, aren't we? Let's face it, as a community.
Honestly, though, there were people really close to me. And I'm like, hey, look, I laid out a map. I'm like, okay, here is the wet market. Here is all of Wuhan. Here is this lab. I'm like, come on. If it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, I'm like, I'm no expert. I'm not a scientist, but don't you think that because look at what this lab does. And then when they revealed that gain of function research was going on, at Chapel Hill, and that it literally got moved over to this lab, I'm like, they are literally studying how to infect human beings with coronaviruses. And then there's an outbreak, and now we have a pandemic, and they're saying this is ground zero. It's like. Yeah. Why is that such a reach? It drove me nuts. I'm like, the wet market thing, it's not impossible, but I'm like, which one is more likely, right? If you have a house fire, right? It's like, which one? If I give you a book of matches, but then here's a flamethrower sitting on top of an oven that is turned on, and it's gas, which one do you think started the fire? That's what, you know what I mean? That's what, and I'm not going into, the vaccines and such. It's a whole nother talk for a whole nother day. But it bothered me how I was being treated for just asking questions and having the conversations. I was like, look, I can't prove or disprove either one of these, but I lean in this particular direction because A, B through Z. And they're like, oh, dude, you're crazy. You need help. And I'm like,
It makes sense, though, that they would try to do something like this, though, because actually, since David Grush came out and since, congressional hearings, people have been talking about this subject more openly and honestly with just random people. It comes up in
real life. It's like that. I've told you that.
Experiences, and it makes sense that they would want to try and shut it down because they maybe perhaps don't want this becoming such a big topic of conversation. I met some new guys today, a new traveling family coming through the town where we are in Morocco.
Right. Yeah, you were talking about this earlier.
And they're from Canada, but they didn't know about David Grush or the congressional hearings. That open-minded to pretty much anything, I assume. But I think sometimes we are guilty of thinking that the world knows what we know. And Darcy, you were there talking about Arrow and the report and what it's done for public opinion. I just can't help but think that we're in more of an echo chamber than that, and that actually, if people don't know who David Grush is still, they're certainly not going to know what an Arrow is, who Arrow are, and what their report is. So
that's true.
It just feels like it's games that's being played to busy a community.
Yeah,
right? It's not for anybody else, but for us, because nobody else is seeing it. And there must be a motive behind all that. Because if it's just to keep us, few thousand or few 100,000 people busy. It's an awful lot of effort they're going to for no bloody good reason.
So the number one thing that is Google searched in the world, other than pornography, is UFOs. And
Is that true?
And both of them are just me.
And there you go. You're a busy man. So essentially, there's a lot of interest in that out there. And the Congressional Oversight Committee YouTube channel that published the Grush hearing, that is their most watched congressional hearing in YouTube history. You can go to it now. It's had millions of views. And you go to the rest of the videos in their YouTube channel, maybe 50,000. So it tells you something, and this is a worldwide draw. This is a subject that people are very interested in. I think I'm hopeful that what's happening with Grush right now is he is very meticulously planning his opportunity to drop the op-ed, because he's watching the chess players make their moves, right? You've got Kirk Patrick dropping this bullshit report. A lot of people are tearing through that and saying, look, this is no bueno. You've got NASA doing their thing. And you've got all kinds of political action that's happening right now that's not really surrounding that issue, but you're trying to understand who's really in this and who's not. You got Matt Gaetz, Tim Burchett, what's her name, Luna, and many more that are engaging in this issue. And I think when he drops his op-ed, it's going to answer a lot of these things that are going on right now. And that should be what we look forward to, in my opinion, in terms of how the mood is going in the community. There's a lot of pessimism, and there rightly should be, but there's probably going to be more things that are going to make us pessimistic coming out in the short term than like something like the op-ed. And
right.
People are looking forward to James Fox's documentary. This new whistleblower. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I've spoken with friends that have worked on set and stuff like that. I really want to get to the bottom of this too, because I'm engaging with people right now for another project I'm working on that are new people coming forward that have never spoken about this before, and one of them is linked to Department of Homeland Security.
Wow.
And he's a leaker, right? So
really?
We're in this environment right now that has been started. It's like the post-Grush whistleblower environment. And in my opinion, you're going to get a lot of people coming forward now that some of them will be well vetted, some of them won't be. Some of them will be looking for creating their own entertainment and, I guess, celebrity empire. And some of them will be actually just trying to speak to their true experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the way it goes. It's always been that way too. If you look at it historically, there's been people that have come forward in ufology that are just there for them. And then there's people that have come forward altruistically and, haven't charged a person a dime and just spoken the truth. So.
Right. Yeah. That's something to be said there.
I think it's difficult for anybody though that's coming out now as a whistleblower. Because David Grush's shoes are big shoes to follow here. He's a very clear, concise speaker. He's very methodical. It's almost robotic like in the way that he's able to bring up dates, times, facts, everything like this. And we've all got used to it. And, you know, he also hasn't made himself very public. So there's this sort of allure around David Grush. Nobody can get to him. You know, everybody goes over the information that he has said in the few places he has said it over and over and over again. You know, and as we get more whistleblowers coming forwards and they're maybe a bit more open and a bit more free and, you know, and perhaps, you know, communicate in a different way than David, I think, you know, it's easy to criticize people coming forwards because they don't measure up to what we're used to in the past. And I think that's going to be a tough thing coming forwards. And I think it's quite a daunting task for any whistleblowers coming forwards to think, oh, I've got to perform like him, because let's face it, David did an absolutely class A job, and he continues to do so.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and there's guys like Dr. Robert Jacobs, who witnessed a thermonuclear like dummy rocket getting shot out of the sky. He's been very candid and, you know, straightforward about his experience in the past. You've got Robert Salas, who was a Minuteman and saw the nuclear silos get deactivated.
Yep.
You know, you've got people that come from a legitimate background, and we actually can pour over some kind of documentation or some kind of we could scrutinize what they're saying and say, okay, definitely we can put our finger on this being true. I hope we can do that with the new people that are coming out too, you know, because if it just becomes a ton of hearsay, it sounds more like a science fiction book than anything else, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that gets crazy out here, right? Like, there have been a lot of different things thrown my way privately that before I even broached it with anyone publicly or you know, made posts about it or, you know, added it to, like, you know, anything that I was making content wise, like, I had to sit with it for a little bit. And I'm like, you know, all right, I look at my own experiences. I have like a baseline that I compare everything to. And I'm like, this is really stirring the pot here. I'm like, this is some of the craziest shit I've ever heard. So I'm really curious, Darcy, like, you've interviewed quite a list of people, a list of names that people in our community are awfully familiar with. Where's your head at right now as far as what you actually believe to be true and what you don't believe to be true?
I think scientifically, like, there could be a cornucopia of truths that are possible, you know? So when you hear about there is a non-human intelligence element to this mystery and to this history, he also follows that up with some of it might be considered extraterrestrial. You know, that's like the typical since 1947 explanation of what UFOs are, right? A non-human entity from another star in our universe. And I think that has been the hardest driven story. But I think he also says, you know, like, there's possibly extra dimensional non-human intelligence here. And I think that's possible. And I think there's, you know, when you talk about these dimensions, you're talking about, like, something maybe we just can't even perceive. Like, we know that the human perception is limited. Our brains, our eyes, they're meant to only perceive things in a 3-dimension world. And you know, our color spectrum or the electromagnetic spectrum that we witness with our eyes is limited too. It goes from, like, the purple end where just beyond some hue of purple is ultraviolet, and then these other wavelengths that we can't perceive with our human eye. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the color red, and beyond that, infrared, which we can't perceive with our human eye. But our technology is an extension of that, and we're seeing all of these things in infrared, ultraviolet light spectrums, UFOs that are flying around our planet. And if some of that is piloted by non-human intelligence, I think another thing that we're not looking at is artificial intelligence, AI.
Yes.
Like a non-human AI, NH AI, right? What if, like, what our fighter jets, like a F-18, is chasing is actually partially drone-like or robotic in nature.
Right.
It's just a surveillance vehicle that is coming to look at our society and examine what we're doing to this planet and reporting that information back.
Right. We do it.
We do it. Why can't we? Yeah. Why can't
right?
other
Like
society
we see
be
it.
doing that? Yeah.
I had that conversation with my mom about that. I'm like, Mom, you know, we send out drones and we send out rovers and such, right? And then they don't come back. They sit on that planet, and someone could come along and find that. The idea of unmanned craft coming here and exploring, that's like the first thing I think of when people see like something that's nuts and bolts but small, like a Tic Tac, or you know, people have reported seeing like metallic orbs. Obviously Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp had released an image of something like that. And like you were saying with the light spectrum here, Darcy and everybody here, I mean, feast your eyes on this diagram here. That little spot right there in the sort of in the middle there, that's all human beings see. And then there's everything else outside of that. So that calls into question like the nature of what light really is, what it represents. Can something intelligent be made of it? Obviously, it can store information. We know that to be true. So there's a lot to be said here, honestly. That's why I always think back to, and I mention this a lot, the idea of the super spectrum that John Keel proposed. You know, if anybody's here is familiar with the Mothman Prophecies film, there's a really good clip of that I'm actually going to be putting into my new YouTube video, where it's about perspective. It's like, well, how come something can show up before there's a catastrophic event or things of that nature? And it's like, well, they have a different perspective on maybe, you know, the flow of time in this dimension in comparison to, you know, somebody like me. And our brains are essentially acting like filters, you know, like it would be an overload for us. And that's one of those weird mysteries about the universe. It's like, and life, it's like how fine-tuned we are as biological meat suits for what we do and what we experience in comparison to, say, like a bat, or like you know, a dolphin, or, you know, I mean, I won't lie. I will say this, even from a scientific standpoint, I've kind of gone in a circle as far as like, oh, there's definitely a God because I grew up Catholic, right? And then it's like I go in a circle and I'm like, nope, definitely not that. And now I've had to arrive at being spiritually like agnostic, because it's like I can't prove it, I can't disprove it. But then I see all of these really weird, fine-tuned characteristics of the universe, and I'm like, is this like a simulation?
Intelligent design.
It's nuts. Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, like, there's like, what if God is like something that we're just starting to understand, you know,
right,
in science, right? Like, what if our old perception of it, this like religious perception, is the archaic perception, and really the universe is alive. You know, that could be that. You know, part of this. And yeah, we are these beings that live on a certain plane of existence, and every now and then these other beings that live in different layers of existence above us come down and interact with us, and we go, oh, that's an angel, that's a demon, that's a god, but really it's just it's the existence of intelligence. That's all that's beyond us. And,
I think that's true.
Our perception sometimes labels it something we identified with in the past, and we're starting to sort of like catch up with.
Well, it's like that old saying, isn't it? Technology is indistinguishable from magic if you don't have the right reference point. If you don't understand the technology, it's magic. If you don't understand the right realm or the right being or the right dimension, then it's indistinguishable from angels, demons, God, and Satan, and all those in between. And it's certainly, I mean, it's a narrative that's being pushed by a lot of people in Congress at the moment as well, which I was surprised at. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised at. But, a lot of the talk now is steering it away from NHI and the craft and the occupants of the craft to it having this spiritual aspect to it. And I'm all for exploring the spiritual aspect of it. But for me, spirituality and talking about angels and demons isn't exactly the same thing whatsoever. And that's the area that they're now exploring. And I don't like that one bit. I
think the reason why they're doing that is because it's party politics. Like, you look at the two mics that came forward. What are those senators' names? But they're both, I think they're Republican, right?
Yes.
Yep. It doesn't matter. It just matters that they're talking about it, which is, in my opinion, good. Because they obviously walked out of this skiff, got exposed to something that kind of shocked and rocked their world, and then they immediately associated it with something that they understood the masses that they usually speak to would comprehend. So they figured, we have to make an announcement so that it's digestible to our party. And that gets the conversation going, and then maybe 5 years, 7 years from now, I don't know, when more of this weird stuff gets unfolded and demonstrated to the public to be more real, the conversation will shift a little bit away from the, very, Roman Catholic way of looking at, Mike Rogers, exactly. So
no, you're right. Bringing Catholicism up into that. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
But look, it's interesting that we live in the day and age where it's being discussed within Congress, and it's not just being handled by, it's not being skirted away and only handled by the Project Blue Book folks. Like back in the day, it was the Air Force and this panel and the scientific folks around Edward Congdon. But now you've got like actual senators from different states engaging with this because it's making news. It's being broadcast on News Nation, CNN, Fox News. Tucker Carlson's doing the beat. Joe Rogan's sounding the alarm on this, even though he might think somebody's taken too much salvia and hallucinated or something, right? But look, it's like, it's interesting that we live in the day and age where it's like just more broadly discussed. So when you ask me what's my perspective, I am a nuts and bolts guy. I am a more scientific person. Oh shit. Right. The Men in Black got me.
Not again.
My camera got overheated, I think. So you can hear
Hey, you're still here. We can still hear you. It's all good.
Yeah. So I'm more nuts and bolts. When I hear like Gary Nolan talk about remote viewers and how remote viewers they've identified in their brains a certain hemisphere that lights up more than other hemispheres. And they've also noticed that part of the brain tends to be more developed than some other candidates that they've tested with remote viewing. That makes me think, hey, there might be a mechanism in our brain here that actually allows psychic abilities and ESP. And it's not all linked to something spiritual. It might actually be more so linked to a physical, scientific phenomenon. But how they're able to connect with each other, or from brain to brain in this like sort of telepathic way, which remote viewers actually discuss that experience with out of body experiences and stuff like that. That might actually also be a dimensional thing. Like it might be something beyond the third dimension, that there's this sort of unified field that your brain connects to pull that information psychically. Like, this is what I theorize, and I'm sure somebody else is going to do way better than me eventually, maybe you, Tom. But that's just where my head's at in terms of like all this strange stuff that's happening in our reality.
It's really fascinating, the time that we're living in, where, like you said, these types of things are being discussed where they are. And I feel that we're just scratching the surface, but we're on the precipice of a revolution here that brings all of this subject matter into one specific space, because they are so interconnected in so many ways, especially the consciousness aspect of this, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing with my next video, talking about those types of things. And I know, Darcy, very recently, you've been doing some work related to certain incredible individuals in the remote viewing field. And, I've dabbled in that too, right? Like, we do the remote viewing space. Astral, Tyler, you know him very well. You've been, I think, in a couple of those before too. And watching those results happening and to see data basically being collected in real time and such, it's mind-blowing, some of the things that you hear from people too. And unfortunately, anecdotal evidence, I feel like, kind of falls to the wayside for certain people. And I feel like that is just like the biggest mistake to be making when talking about these things. And I've been saying this a lot over the last month specifically, but like, we could be dealing with forces and intelligences and phenomena that aren't exactly compatible with the current scientific method that we've developed. It's like our way of doing things, let's just say it wasn't influenced by anybody but ourselves, right? Like the way that we go about doing science, to put it very simply, it may not work with some of the forces around us. It hasn't caught up with being able to observe any of that properly or interact with it, right? Like, I mean, think about gravity waves. I always bring that into this conversation. Science didn't have the ability to measure or detect gravity waves for a very long time, but Albert Einstein had laid the mathematical foundation for those to exist, and he's like, they're out there somewhere, we just haven't found them yet, right? Like, there's a lot of that in what we even talk about. It's like, consciousness appears to be non-local. We haven't exactly detected that yet, but here is the formula for that, or here is how that works mathematically. Like, that's why I think we're on the precipice of something giant. And although, to circle back to something you said earlier, although there's quite a bit of pessimism going on front facing, I gotta be honest, this is one of the most optimistic periods that I have found myself in ever since I got really, really serious about this subject matter. And you have had such an interesting perspective, being able to sit in a room with people that we all know and admire. And I'm really curious, because you've done that, what's like some of the most interesting information you've been given directly, though, like face to face with like a Richard Dolan or any of the bigger names, like what have you been given in person that has like really stuck with you?
Yeah, I think with Rich, he's been super generous with his time towards me. He's really helped me put together a lot of my stories in the recent years. And the very first documentary I ever made was called The Underground and was all about underground bases, that type of stuff. And Richard Dolan was in my very first doc back, which I released initially just for free on YouTube back in 2012. So, you know, we're over a decade now that I've been pursuing the questions in this phenomenon. And thanks, what's Sexy Voices? That's, what's his name? Jason. Anyway,
I love those guys, man.
So funny. But yeah, I'm gonna see Jason at Contact in the Desert, and he's actually interviewing Tom. What's his name? The guy from Expanse.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I always forget his last name.
Man, so epic. But yeah, what Rich has imparted to me is that there is a physical element to UFOs. There's a non-human intelligence to UFOs. Thomas Jane, that's it.
That's it.
And there's a spiritual element, right? He has told me things that have happened to him that lean towards this spiritual existence in a big way. And I am keen to listen. But it's really interesting that, he has had also people that are whistleblower, let's call them whistleblowers that have not come forward yet. You know, throughout the decades that he's been researching this, think about it this way too, right? Before Grush was heading up the UAP task force, there would have been people that were experiencing this stuff, that were working on special access programs. And their way of venting was to be anonymous and to come forward through chat forums set up by people like Richard Dolan. He has that on his website, his members' forums.
Yep.
And reach out via email and all kinds of things like that and give testimony and say, you know, I'm not ready to come forward, but eventually I am. And so when I heard about Grush, I was like, wow. But then when I heard that there was like 40 whistleblowers waiting in the wings to eventually come forward, I was not surprised, because I had heard from people like Dolan, Stanton Friedman, who I've spoken to in the past before he passed away, that there are a lot of people from within special access programs, military, and military contractors and such that want this to be out there. They don't want it to be relegated to this super black secret world, right? And
absolutely.
You know, there's other people I'm speaking to now, like Russell Targ. I got to sit down and interview him, and he's fairly confident that the CIA still has a remote viewer program.
Yeah, that he is. Yep. That doesn't surprise me.
Why would they, if they actually proved some of that to be a strategic asset during the DIA days of testing it out and the CIA's investigations into it with Project Stargate, why would they throw away that methodology? Right? They need every strategic advantage over their adversaries, and it comes with the territory of having the best security for your country, right? So I'm sure psychics are factored into that, and the whole psychic phenomenon is pretty crazy to me. You know, it's like something that's overlooked. And I think humans, everybody is innately psychic, but there's just some people that are incredibly psychic, right? And those are the ones that end up becoming assets for programs.
Absolutely, like your Joe McGonagall's and the one gentleman, my God, his name, and I've heard it so many times this week, but it always slips my mind. The individual,
Smith.
Well, not Paul Smith.
Pat Price.
Pat Price. When he remote viewed a Soviet Russian submarine, and then the fact that it was proven that this man had the ability to not only remote view secret locations, but he could bring back alphanumeric information. Like that, I mean, he did it. Like, it's on record that he did that, and it was correct. Like, think about it this way. This is for everybody listening. If I go and I rip a piece of paper out of this notebook in front of me, right? And I write down like a combination of letters and numbers, and I then drive across the United States to any random state, and I don't tell you any of this. Nothing. You know nothing. And I go stick it underground in like a time capsule or something in somebody's backyard randomly in like the state of Nebraska, right? That's the equivalent of what this gentleman did and how he found this information. He had the ability to use remote viewing, and he could tell you, oh yeah, it is at this location, these coordinates, and this is what it says. Like, and it could have been anywhere on Earth. Like, the mathematical chances are insane.
Yeah, the powerful thing about Pat Price is that he was having a extremely powerful OBE, like out of body experience. And when he was remote viewing, he was literally standing or hovering right there at the target location, right? Which some remote viewers capture like little fragments of images and they jot that down, and little fragments of sound or I don't know, environment, air, like rain or whatever, right? Like they feel
colors
things.
And sensations.
But this guy was there. He could describe everything as if he was just standing right there and feeling it and seeing it out of body. So that's why he was just so powerful.
And that's consciousness non-locality at work, right there.
Yeah,
that's a non-local characteristic.
There he is. Sorry, I just threw up like something I had in my background there because my camera's...
No, all good, all good. And you know what? I think just because you have that up, if you don't mind, Darcy, like, I would really quickly like to play a trailer from one of your documentaries, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, totally. Go for it.
So this one is my personal favorite, and it's because it's the one that I was talking about earlier. We were discussing how I met Darcy. This was the documentary that I watched at work. And it's specifically pertaining to UFOs and the Apollo program, and it's literally... honestly, genuine, and I'm not saying this because I'm friends with Darcy. It's one of my favorite documentaries ever, like, on this subject. I saw it, and as far as Apollo and UFOs go, I think this one's the best ever made. And I'm not kissing your ass, Darcy, but I swear to God, like, this one really is my favorite, and I felt that way about it literally, like, in the hours leading up to when I randomly met you, which I had no idea that was going to happen. So we'll play the clip now. I want you guys to check this out, too. If you've never seen it, it is available, I believe, on Amazon Prime and on iTunes. But yeah, here, let's play the clip.
Yes. So, I mean, it makes sense that there are sightings here. Why wouldn't there be sightings out there? You know, it's not my area of expertise. I don't dig into, I look into the phenomenon, and if it leads me to an astronaut, great, and if not, you know. So I just know that what Faye Ann Potter told me about her brother Buzz Aldrin, that they saw something on the way to the moon.
Well, we pulled most of these images from sources like the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal, which is actually drawing them from the scanned high-resolution NASA versions of all the handheld photography.
Accomplishing this was considerably less simple. It meant showing that a brand new spacecraft, far more complicated than its predecessors, would operate so well it could be trusted to take men well beyond near-Earth orbit.
We were that first crew that was going to get a chance to fly this vehicle and test this vehicle that was going to take human beings to the moon.
Let's say we know all of these implications, and let's say it's 1960 and we know some of these things, right? Well, you think of the world back then. The world of 1960, no way would that world be ready for some of the intellectual realities of what we think we know now.
Although it is presumed that the recordings were destroyed or lost, the transcriptions were made at NASA by the woman shown in this image and others.
Which we might get in the mainstream media, the fact that we're not alone sometime in the future. These congressional hearings in which experiencers are going to testify.
Woo!
Tom, you're muted. You're muted, Tom.
Well, you know what? It's because I muted my physical mic and not the digital portion. Darcy,
No,
I can hear it in your voice, man. How much you love that.
I muted you while the video was playing because it.
Oh,
had
you're a
muted
bastard.
you, and it sounded like you were sniffing and you're
Hey,
like that.
real,
so
yeah, my allergies
favor.
are terrible, and I thought I was muted at that time, so I apologize for that. We have 222 people watching, which is an angel number, which is really fascinating that I just happened to notice that. So, hello everybody that's watching. Obviously, make sure you guys leave a like and do all the usual YouTube things that us YouTubers ask you to do when you're on YouTube.
Yeah,
Darcy,
so
my
some of them
God.
are actually watching on Exo, Tom, because I turned it back on because there wasn't that many people watching on YouTube. So there are people watching on your X.
Hey, what are you
so
gonna do?
you are watching on X. Please, at some point, head over.
We appreciate anybody watching from anywhere at any time. It's always super incredible. It's just such a blessing to have this show with you, Digby and Darcy. My God, man, that trailer is so good. It's so well done. Obviously, your handsome face is in it as well. Like, how did it feel when you finished this and you put it out into the world and you started getting like feedback on that? Like, what's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a mix because sometimes you get crazy trolls that are like, "Oh, nothing new to see here. This is same old, y'all," and you're like, "Cool, thanks, troll number one. On, troll 2, 3, 4, 5, you know." But I put a lot of work into my docs, you know.
Yeah, man.
I try to write them so that, you know, I'm presenting facts and very interesting testimony to support those facts. And that documentary, you know, I did get to sit down with the world famous king of ufology, James Fox, and he told me about his experience with Buzz Aldrin. It took me like 8 months to convince him to do that. You know, he's a very hard guy to get a hold of. But he'll text most people, speak with
James.
them. Yeah.
James is very. I've been in contact with James for on Signal for about 8 months.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pin that man down to coming on the show is like pulling blood from a stone. I love
It's
him.
hard.
Really.
He's a great guy, you know.
Yeah, he definitely
is.
is.
Very generous of him to give me some of his
Absolutely.
time.
I love him. To
But, you know, it's like when you put a film out like the ones that I'm making, you put yourself out there. And when
Right.
people attack your film, you feel attacked, right? You feel like your baby is being run over by a car or something. So,
Yeah.
some of it's good. I mean, I really appreciate that, the positive feedback. And there's some people that see the work I do and they appreciate my perspective and what I'm adding to the UFO community in terms of my research. But then you got like the crew of trolls that say it's propaganda or it's this or that. I've heard certain folks kind of like drop that in spaces and stuff on me. And I know who they are. I know who they really are. And as a content creator, they pale in comparison because they really don't. They don't do something that's proactive and gives back to the community, like you were saying before, Tom. Like people focus their energy too much on throwing mud and creating controversy and infighting instead of
I hate it.
Instead of just being a brother or a sister in this like effort to understand what's really going on, right?
Right.
So yeah, man, I really appreciate when people are positive about my work, but I do take feedback too. Some people
You have to,
negative,
right?
and when they are negative, I understand that perspective if it's like constructive criticism,
Right. Right. Like if it's about your audio or like, something like that. Because I've gotten comments like that before, especially when you're doing things like I do, and it's so homemade. Like sometimes someone will be like, "Ugh, I didn't really like the music in your video," but it's like subjective.
Yeah, some people don't like the music. I've heard that over and over in my films, and I'm like, dude, I love the music. That's why I put it in there. So screw you.
No, I know, right? It's just like you made what you wanted to make. Some people are gonna like it, some people aren't. But man, I tell you what, it does hurt sometimes when it goes further than that, because you're right, it's your baby. Like it feels, it feels like somebody has insulted your pride in a way, and like we're content creators here, so it's like maybe our perspective is a little different, and obviously there's going to be some bias, but it's like I know the kind of work it took for me to create the things that I have, right? And then it's like I watch your stuff, and immediately the first thing I think is, oh my God, how many hours this probably took and what went into it. That's why I think I appreciate your stuff as much as I do. It's because I can put myself into your shoes and be like, oh, dude, I know this part right here. I know what that probably took. Oh God, the amount of filming and the editing and how many nights you probably only slept like 4 hours. Like the stuff, Darcy, you obviously have a very good idea of some of the things that I've been working on lately for very specific reasons. Like last night, man, I only slept like 4 hours for a very specific reason. And like, I cannot wait to take a nap today, but it's like, oh my God, it's so worth it in the end.
Yeah, no, like when you're in the thick of it, like editing, and I think a lot of creators experience this, it's called the flow. And when you get into the flow, when you're creating, you lose all perception of time and space. You literally are like, immersed in that experience, and you're like feeding off of this like dopamine train, like, oh, this, that.
I know it very well.
That's real.
Yeah, so it's like, and then you kind of like pull your head out of the flow for like the end of it, and you're like, okay, I've got to eat, I've got to go poo, I've got to like check in on my wife, my dog needs a walk. Whoa, like this is all happening right now, and you're like running out the door, So
it's like, I know it so well. Or like somebody interrupts you, it's like, oh, can I just ask you something? It's like, no, fuck, leave me alone, go away.
Right, or somebody like pokes their head into my room, and like my dad literally like photo bombed the podcast earlier, which that type of stuff I love, honestly, because it's organic. But like sometimes there are things happening around me where I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to go off camera, about to unplug this microphone, I'm about to go running downstairs, and I'm about to scream. Like, I need these things to stop. Like, God, but the flow state, sometimes that doesn't come. Sometimes it doesn't happen.
No, it's like writer's block. It's like you can't. Sometimes it's hard to get into it and really feel enthused and excited about what you're doing. And that's where it's like what Digby was saying. If somebody pops in right when you start to pick up on the flow, and they're like, "Hey, can you walk the dog? Can you pick up? Can you go do the sheets? Can you do that?" And you're like, "No, like, sorry, I have to do this right now. Leave me alone. Talk to you in 4 hours."
Yeah, I mean, I've
Exactly.
done it. I mean, I did a documentary for a charity back in the UK. What was it, about 4 months ago? And I swear, I worked on it for the first week, and I didn't get the flow. And then a week later, I was like, "Oh, fuck it," and I just deleted everything, and I started from scratch again. And then I found my flow. And sometimes it's as simple as finding that right piece of music that sets a tone, and then you go, "Oh no, I've got it now." And that's a lot of the time it is that way for me. Is I find this piece of music and it just like empowers me, or it provokes an emotional response that I think is relevant to what I'm trying to portray, and then I'm on the sort of on the train, as it were. But when you don't have that, it's so difficult, so bloody difficult.
Totally. And that's why I like working on like my projects. I've been asked to work on other people's films, and I've kind of said, "Nah, I'll kind of pass." I did offer to work on James's, but never got like the invite. When I saw Virginia, the moment of contact, I actually flew out to meet him in person and stuff at Regal Theaters or something in LA there. And
Oh, wow.
and I watched the film. I loved it. All the new information that was shared about the incident that I didn't know before, it was awesome. But I did notice one thing: the on-screen graphics, like the lower thirds and the subtitles and the like animation of the map of Brazil, and little markers on that like continental map that showed where these UFO events were happening in Brazilian history leading up to the moment of contact, like the Virginia incident in 1986. They were bad. And I walked up to him and was like, "Dude, like, let me do the animations for your next film. I'll do them for free." And he was like, "Oh, okay, we'll talk about it." But I could tell he was just like, "Fuck you." This is that's my baby. Don't talk about the animations that way. But he has said in other like interviews and stuff, I keep it kind of lo-fi in terms of that. Like, his visuals that he focuses on are the camera angles and how crisp the person's face looks and all that stuff, right?
Which is always on point.
Which is always on point.
And I think he's gone to another level with it with the next film as well, hasn't he? He's been speaking about it a lot.
I think so.
Incredibly proud of it.
Yeah, I think he's upped it a lot. And I think when he worked on The Phenomenon, if you watch that film, the animations and the motion graphics that happen over top of a lot of the Peter Coyote voiceover and certain historical descriptions and stuff, a lot of that was probably created with the help of Dan Farah, right? Which was the other producer on that film, who's more of a Hollywood dude, right? And then Moment of Contact was all James. So it's like, sometimes you work with certain people that influence a different type of creativity in your pieces, which is great,
I totally agree with that. And it's not easy to do those types of things. What's that?
Oh, no, I just read that. That was nasty. All right. But yeah, Jason's a little, he's got to go pinch one. Yeah, so basically I'm working on like a couple new films, and I'm pretty excited about them. And I think people should know that Tom is going to be helping me with this remote viewing doc that I've been starting to interview people for, and I'm still getting more testimony about. I actually met with Astro in person in Maryland, so I'll have to share some of that interview with you.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I met with good old Tyler there, and we went for dinner
He's a great
and stuff
guy.
after, and talked about all the stuff we're talking about, the UFO community, and just lots of stuff that's going on. And that was like over a year ago, so.
Right.
We should shout out to Astral and his new producing job that he's landed this week as well.
Yeah, is he producing for?
Yeah, Need to Know. He
Need to
did
Know.
last week's episode, so well done.
Well deserved. Definitely well deserved. And I'm
Totally.
very jealous that you got to meet him in person because, like, I mean, he has been so good to me, man. Like, just like Digby too. Like, I literally consider him one of my closest friends in life at this point. Like, I mean, I absolutely adore that guy, seriously. And
He's a great dude. Great.
just
dude.
such a nice
And,
person, big heart.
Yeah, I love how he interacts with people in the community. He keeps it kind of like, bueno. He doesn't mess with the mud fights and stuff that are
Right.
going on. I like it. He's a good dude.
That's why we get along, exactly, because it's that same strategy. And Darcy, like, to be on board with anything that you're working on, like, I'm just so fucking thankful. And there's our other F word, right? We can add that to the counter.
Well, Darcy said one earlier, so we're at 3.
I like
F words
that.
at the moment.
It's
And we're
super
sort of
exciting,
heading
man.
Towards the end of the show now, so we're sort of in our last 5-10 minutes. So
Yeah, we're
only got
definitely getting there.
2 more fucks left. No.
There's one.
only one left now.
We'll save it, right? We'll keep that one in the back pocket.
At the end of the show.
I like that. The footage that I was working on last night is part of what Darcy's referring to, and I'll just say that the material is utterly fascinating. It's real crisp visually, like it was filmed extraordinarily well, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of that. Darcy had reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be involved with this, and I was just like, oh, let's go, man. Let's go. I live for stuff like this. So Darcy, obviously in a public forum, I'll say it again, man. I genuinely thank you for thinking of me for that. And I'm so excited to see what we're going to put together here. And it's been a blast so far, man. You've been really good to me. And I'm extraordinarily thankful for that. And the fact that you took the time to come on the show today as well. It's really means a lot to me.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really good to meet Digby. I've heard great things. Tom's in love with you. And
I know, but
totally.
Let's say he's too short for me.
The bromance.
Damn it. But yeah, as a content creator and somebody who's very interested and devoted to understanding more about this phenomenon and the history of it, it means a lot to me. For you guys to have me on and support me. So yeah, thanks, and stoked to talk in the future sometime when I'm a little more set up in a more permanent office.
Right, when the documentary gets done, we'll have to have you on before it, or just before, or just after it gets released, and we'll go through.
Yeah,
definitely.
Totally.
Absolutely.
We're gonna go on a total PR campaign.
Absolutely.
Darcy, I don't know how much time you have, man, but we do have a final segment. If you have to scoot before that, it's totally cool. It's up to you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you down?
5 minutes.
Yeah, I think this will be a fun one. And I don't.
Speculation station.
I was
do that. I swear.
It's because I don't know when you're going to stop talking.
It's just like da-da-da-da-da.
Well, you breathed, so press the button.
Yeah, I should have taken a breath. So
don't breathe, just speak.
Darcy, if you've never seen this particular segment, what we do is it can be a question, it could be a comment, it could be a photo, a video clip, it could be anything. It's something that you want to leave the viewers and everybody else to think about for the rest of the day, right? That's why it's called speculation station. It's like something that you want to have like an impact, and it could be about anything at all, but something it's like that you personally are thinking about, and you're like, I want to say this, and I want all of you to take that with you as this show ends. But
no, it's gone.
It can,
Okay, I'm
it could be,
I'm here. So
it could be anything.
I'm pulling up what I think would be appropriate. I'll actually drop a little speculation link for you. How about that?
I like that. That's a new one.
So, look, a lot of people have been, kind of on either side of the fence with regards to the jellyfish UAP and the analysis regarding that FLIR video that Jeremy Corbell shared about a month ago. Maybe it was 3 months ago now. I don't know,
yeah, it's been some time now.
But, I've been working with a pretty cool dude. I can call him a friend now. We've talked on the phone quite a few times. His name is Dave Fulch, and he is actually a professional FLIR camera system repairman. And he's been repairing the systems that would be on, fighter jets and these CBP, Customs Border Patrol planes, like airplanes as well as helicopters and stuff like that, or these like blimps that they put in the air that just have FLIR cameras going over borders and stuff. So I dropped his analysis of, in the private chat there, of the jellyfish UFO. And what I think he does that's unique to the whole community is that he uses one of these far forward-looking infrared camera systems, like an MX-15, and he tests it out and kind of debunks certain views that certain UFO videos that have been recorded in FLIR are this or that. So he shows you what a Mylar balloon looks like in that same system. He shows you what the exhaust of a plane or a bird looks like in that system.
Oh, I think I've seen this.
Yeah, and he actually, back in the day, he actually worked with Mick West because Mick West found out about him and was like, wow, you have access to the same FLIR technology? Okay, do this test for me, do this test for me, do this test for me.
Oh, no kidding.
And yeah, Dave quickly found out that all of the tests that Dave was doing and actually proving was not the prosaic thing, like a balloon or a bird. Mick, even though was getting the information from Dave that it couldn't be that, and was using Dave's analyses and saying it was that because of like these analyses Dave did. So Dave and him don't talk anymore, and that's just something I think you should think about. And if your audience wants to check out that YouTube link
that's really interesting.
Dropped there, you could check out. He has a whole page where he shows what certain objects look like in forward-looking infrared. That's the same quality. They're Westcam systems. And the Westcam system is a contractor in Canada that specifically deals with the Air Force, the Border Patrol, and arms them with these super powerful FLIR systems to monitor the skies.
That's kind of a bombshell in a way, because that would go to show that a lot of the analysis that West has put forward was in fact quite disingenuous, and it's like an alteration of someone else's hard work, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And
debunked the debunker.
Yeah.
Wow.
So West, he actually kind of hates Dave Fulch now, even though Dave doesn't He's like the nicest dude ever. He doesn't hold resentment towards anybody really. But it's just too bad because even this guy who started working with Mick and was trying to show Mick, well, it can't be these prosaic things that you're talking about, realized that Mick West was hell-bent on proving that everything was prosaic, and that's why they stopped working together, because Mick had no room for the other side of the coin.
Wow. It makes you wonder, like, well, why are you so hell-bent? Like, if you're being shown this, and it's being explained to you by a professional that would know that, hey, Mr. Mick West, your prosaic explanation is in fact impossible in the face of what I'm about to show you with these tests, to then turn around and take that and to smudge it essentially, it makes you wonder what the motive is there. That's really bizarre. That's honestly really bizarre.
Part of it, I think, is just preconceived notions that some people just can't get over, you know? They have this, like, cognitive dissonance, and it's like their helmet, and all of these new ideas are bouncing off their helmet like ping pong balls. And
it's a great explanation.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just what it seems to be with Mick West.
That's quite enlightening. I gotta be honest, I think a lot of people in the chat, since we dropped the link, should definitely, after the show, take the time to go watch that. I know what you're talking about. I recall seeing it, and it made me really lean in the direction of that jellyfish being something quite extraordinary and anomalous. That's a great, that's probably one of our best speculation stations, and it's unique because it's a link. No one's ever done that before. So Darcy, you're like in your own league at this point.
I don't know about that. I'm in the junior league compared to the big dogs, as most people are saying. But I really appreciate being on with you guys. Thank you. I'll bid you adieu, and take care of yourselves till next time.
Definitely, man. We'll definitely catch up later, and my phone will be next to me if you got to get in touch with me for our project-related items throughout the day.
You bet, man. Thank you very much.
Secretive stuff. Well, that was amazing having Darcy on.
He's a great guy, man. He really is.
Really great guy. Really great guy. It's been another fantastic show. I've really enjoyed it. Tom, it's been great to talk to you as always. My voice is about to go again.
I'm glad you're feeling better though, Digby. I was worried about you.
I'm getting there. I'm alive, and I'm not in chronic pain and delusions as I were last week. So that's always a bonus. But anyway, from me and from Tom to all of you wonderful viewers out there, a great big thank you from me and from Tom, and we'll see you all next week.
Take care.